Hey guys, today I'm going to show you some very strong characters, anime characters in mugen. And the first up character we are going to be testing out is going to be Vegito. I bet all of you haven't heard of it before, but let's find out his power. Okay, now let's go to training to first test out Vegito Blues Power versus Bills, also known as bearers. And all to tell you, three of these anime Mojin characters will their download links will be posted. And let's start with the A spec, which does that. And all specs have but all specs have some function. While the back, the front arrow and A spec does this. The back arrow and A spec does this. The down arrow and A spec does this. And this is the up arrow and A spec. Now let's move on to the C spec, which does this. And now the front arrow and A spec does this. The back arrow and A spec does the C spec, sorry. The back arrow and C spec does this. Front arrow and C spec does that. While down arrow and C spec does that. And now let's test out the B spec. First, let us test out the down and C spec again. And now let's move on to the B spec. And you see, if you double tap the back arrow twice, it does this. Sorry, but I just did it now. Anyway, which does that. Now let's move on to the B spec, which does this. And now the front and B spec, which does that. And the back and B spec, which does that. While the down and B spec does this, the up and B spec always does the same thing with A and C. And now let's move on to Z, which does that. While the back and Z does this. While the front and Z does the same thing. And now let's move on to the Y spec, which does teleportation. And the final spec of it all is the X, which does the final combo. And now let's test this in an arcade battle. Now let's test this out. And for your information, There are some specific Mojin characters that Vegito cannot be. And this is an error in the new Mojin. Sometimes the chars or characters do not work at all. You just keep hooking up. And I believe they should fix that. Anyway, let's go now. Mm, a simple opponent to beat. Now that is the A spec. Let me test. Which does that. That was the back and A spec. Now let's charge up. First we have to charge up. And let's test the final spec, the A spec. Which does this amount of damage. And he is dead. KO. Well, that was the first Mojin character to display. And now let's test the second one, which is going to be Beerus. First, let's test him in the training. After that, we will get to test Superman. No, so we'll test Superman, and finally all the All Might. So now let's go on. There is another error from the Mojin. It's really annoying when these sort of things happen. It becomes really embarrassing during the fight. And now, let us test. Let us test Beerus. Then finally, we can go and test a final person. Now let's test it out. We're going to be doing Beerus versus Kung Fu Man because there have been some hookups, so we don't want that to happen again. So anyway, let's test it. This is the A spec. Now, as you see, almost he does not have a down spec, a back spec, a front spec, or any combo attack. Now, while the Z spec does this, the Z spec continues doing that. Now let's go to the C spec, which does the blast. Now let's go to the B spec, The six-pack only does last, has no common moves. So let's go to the Y spec, and it has no form for Y. So let's go to the Z spec. X spec, which is this. This is the X spec, which does this much damage. So now this is all for BRS, and now let's go on to a fight in the arcade. Okay, we are going to be fighting Goku Ultra Instinct. Now we are going to be fighting Goku Ultra Instinct. Now we'll be testing that spec again. As you can see, Goku Ultra Instinct is very powerful, and please, if you want to see his download, link, please go to the video, please subscribe and check other videos for his link. As you see, he is currently beating him. So now we are going to be going to our final Mojin chart. Instead of the All Might, we have changed it to show you Borishiki. I am just kidding. We will still be showing you All Might. Now let's check All Might power. Mojin is hooking up again, and just to tell you, we were going to be showing the part 2 of the strongest animes. This is part 1, and after I show you All Might power in the training, I will not go to the arcade because that one will be part 2. So now let's go to training. All Might versus Momoshiki. Momoshiki has no pictures, and he will be and his download link will also be posted. This is the problem with mugen. It always has plenty hookups. Okay, please, you can forget, it is loading. Okay, now let's start with the A spec, which does that. He has no extra spec. He has no power button. Now let's start the C spec. Now the jump and the up arrow and C spec does this, and the B spec. Now the Z spec, which does nothing. And now the final spec is X, which has no power. Now All Might is not as powerful as you actually think he is. So why not we get a more powerful character to talk about? Why not we talk about Midoriya, full cow. Let's talk about him versus Momoshiki. Now the A button, which does that, is jump and A button. Now the Y button, which does that. Now let's move on to the C button. Now the down and C button, while the B button does that. Now let's move on to the final button, which is X, which does that. Now that is the ending of the video of part 1. Please subscribe to get part 2. Thank you.